The emergency session booked earlier that evening was prompted by a flurry of phone calls and text messages between Carrie Ann, my client, and her adult daughters, Marion, age 20, and Lily, age 23. Carrie Ann was hurt and angered of the text message from Lily that called her a narcissist and a terrible mother. Marion had just gotten off the phone with her mother begging to come home from university because she felt anxious and missed her cat. And only 2 days after she had returned to school, after being home for a week during March break. Carrie Ann explained that the anxiety Marion felt and missing her cat as believable, and yet she sensed an undertone of manipulation. The girls' attempt to sabotage the weekend visit that Carrie Ann had planned with her boyfriend, and the first person that she had begun to date since divorcing their father 4 years earlier, after enduring more than 20 years of an emotionally and verbally abusive marriage. The girls chose to have a limited relationship with their father, which meant that Carrie Ann would carry the weight of what emotional baggage, hurt, and suffering the girls continued to feel. Hello, this is Dorothy. In addition to the weekly format of this podcast, in which I offer practical and spiritual wisdom that I lovingly share with you each Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am so excited to offer a second format of amazing content. It's called Ask Dorothy. These episodes reveal the inner workings of what really happens inside a session of therapy and life coaching with me. Here I dive into the richness of content that each client brings to our sessions and how we best navigate what insights, teachings, solutions, and of course, healing and wholeness abounds. I know that listening will offer you much wisdom and guidance in the ways that bring to life what you need, and also how to implement the best practices and teachings that I share to honor all of what you seek and all of what you are becoming. In each of the Ask Dorothy episodes, you will also hear my candid observations and commentary, and the process for how we arrive in a place of harmony, relief, clarity, understanding, and the true change that happens in each and every session because of a client's willingness to grow, to evolve, to move beyond their comfort zone and into the revelation of what they already know, what they learn to be capable of, and what they desire most for their life. My job is always to support a client's progress and to provide the right tools and best therapeutic practices to ensure that each client will reach their goals, including to be all that they wish to become. I hope you'll enjoy the Ask Dorothy series as an opportunity to have the knowledge and insight of what we can do together. If you have a question that needs my love and helpful guidance, please write to me. All right, so let's jump into this episode and Ask Dorothy. In the years spent untangling from the relationship and the bitter and vengeful behavior that Carrie Ann witnessed in her former husband as she took the steps to leave, she made a point of putting her daughter's needs and wants above herself, of curtailing aspects of her life, her job, and her personality in order to give the girls the freedom and happiness she thought they needed. Carrie Ann set a dangerous precedent when she allowed her teenage children to influence the decisions she made, and as she continued to give them privileges and certain rights that became the expectations that their mother would continue to cater to their every whim. This is an example of how we give away our power We make it possible to put others' needs and wants as priority and in front of our own because we rationalize this decision as something that will make a situation better, will make someone love us or love us more consistently, or out of what guilt or sadness we feel. And again, in the hopes that in catering to another, we are given what we need in return. The problem with this way of thinking is that we rarely verbalize the if-then rules that we are conjuring in our mind. For example, Carrie Ann might have thought to herself, if I buy you this cat, Marianne, because you want one, you will still have to work on your anxiety and learn to self-regulate when you are away at school to help yourself feel better. When we have those types of dialogues in the quiet and vast space of the mind without sharing our true thoughts, an opportunity for greater understanding and greater truth is lost. Rather, we continue in the behavior that ultimately teaches others that they can expect us to meet their demands without question, and in the absence of relying on their self for their well-being and happiness. In providing for her daughters in a way that served to have them rely more on Carrie Ann, she was in effect contributing to their lack of independence and individuation. Individuation refers to the process of forming a stable personality. As a person individuates, they gain a clearer sense of self that is separate from their parents and others around them. Carl Jung used the term individuation extensively in his work in personality development. This process of developing a separate identity is an important goal of adolescence, and it is something that continues throughout a person's life. Carl Jung, a Swiss psychologist and psychiatrist who founded analytical psychology, suggested that this was a self-realization process. Throughout life, people are prone to losing touch with certain aspects of their true selves. Through individuation, they are able to integrate these aspects of themselves with all of their new learning and the experiences that they gain throughout life. As Carrie Ann agonized over the abusive words her daughters spoke and texted, she explained, "They do this without any thought to all that I have done in sacrifice of them." Carrie Ann was speaking about the sacrifices she made, first in staying with her ruthless husband rather than leave early in the relationship and when the girls were young. And then, as she catered to them and their growing demands throughout their teenage years, as Carrie Ann struggled to leave the marriage amidst the many layers of the process of divorce that was emotionally and psychologically exhausting. Carrie Ann secretly hoped that in being available to Lily and Marian's every whim, her daughters would lessen the anger and blame that they directed at their mother for choosing, in their eyes, so poorly the man to be their father. The path of healing begins when you reclaim your power. For Carrie Ann, it would mean first acknowledging to herself and her daughters how her well-intended actions diluted the boundaries between parent and child, and became the excuse and the permission to treat their mother unkindly, in both their demands and in how both girls voiced their opinions and placed judgment on how their mother was living her life. The daughters had learned the behavior of abuse from growing up in a home where their father tormented their mother on nearly a daily basis. And as Carrie Ann continued with little measure for standing up for herself. The girls learned to express anger with hostility, belligerence, and disrespect. How do you reteach someone how not to mistreat you? You begin with defining the boundaries that are safe as you uphold self-respect. And as you do your best to maintain these boundaries whilst being kind yet firm, Carrie Ann decided that she would also schedule a session with each of her daughter's therapists so that the therapists could hear and understand the whole story and likely aspects that had not been shared in order that an honest and vulnerable dialogue could become the healing that everyone needed. Lily and Marion would need to first want to give up their propensity to punish their mother for what is not her fault. Their life, as it is, would need to be their responsibility. When you sacrifice any aspect of yourself, such as your needs and happiness, for anyone, you are removing the power you hold for making yourself happy. Rather, you are giving others power over you that they likely will not use well. No one can decide what is best and right for you. Self-sacrifice can never redeem what has previously happened, nor make up for past trauma and abuse. Carrie Ann and I would need to work on her development of self, of how she would live true to herself and be the one version of her, the best version, in all of her relationships, never again allowing another to decide for her, never again allowing others' desires and wants to supersede or influence what was right for her. Carrie Ann's daughters had been given the authority that her husband once held, and this created an imbalance of power and a continued loss of self that spiraled outward, reinforcing Carrie Ann's feelings of being unloved and undeserving of love. When you don't respect and honor your desires and needs, others will quickly learn that they can take advantage of this. Whether or not they do is up to you. Sometimes we don't fully realize the pattern to which we have been living until it can be so painful and difficult that it is no longer possible to endure. Your feelings act as reminders that how you are being treated or mistreated is not okay. And from that awareness, you too, like Carrie Ann, will need to ask yourself these questions, and then to set upon the steps of your honest answers. First, how am I allowing others to treat me that is causing my unhappiness and suffering? What am I willing to do to change this now and to enforce this new behavior that I uphold for myself? Can I trust that I am deserving of self-respect and support first and foremost? Your self-honesty is the first step. You can change the boundaries and rules that you teach others in how to treat you when you first decide these and are willing to uphold them. You are constantly teaching others how to treat you. Those that are respectful and kind will follow easily in the parameters and guidelines that honor who you are. When others fail this, it is up to you to decide if you will continue to allow this. And as a parent going through separation and divorce, it can be very challenging when deciding what rules and boundaries you uphold and which honor your dignity. You must remember that you are also teaching your children how to be respectful of others and what self-respect looks like. For them to uphold self-respect, you must first model this. If you have been struggling with a lack of self-respect, if you continue to self-sabotage, thinking it is the answer to feeling loved or cared for, please let me help you live your truth. Self-sacrifice is not a solution. Self-sacrifice is a lack of self-respect. Let me help you rebuild the honor and dignity that you deserve. You can reach out to me here, and you can always drop me a note directly at Dorothy@dorothyretusny.com. And finally, the name of my client and her children's names have been changed to protect her identity. Thank you so much for listening. Sending you great love. This is Dorothy. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode of the Wisdom Podcast. To hear more, please check out the other episodes right here. And I'd love for you to subscribe and share your feedback on this or any episode with me. And then join me at dorothyretusny.com, where you'll find the wisdom blog, the inspiration for this podcast, the latest online courses that I teach, my YouTube videos, and the Wisdom Archives, which are an extensive library of guided meditations, mindfulness musings, spiritual teachings, and best therapeutic practices for your whole being, and to nourish and heal your life, plus many other special offerings of love. Please also visit me on social media and say hello. Allow yourself to go within, to access your inner wisdom, and to live this. Awaken your authentic power, live your truth, and be love. Thank you. This is Dorothy.